Alright, today we are working on a 2008 Tahoe. Now this is the hybrid. Now this would be similar to the non-hybrid Tahoe, the GMC, and the Escalade, Denali, Avalanche Silverado. So the code that we have is going to be p0452, fuel tank pressure, sensor circuit low voltage. So either we're not getting a voltage to the sensor, or the sensor is probably either shorted itself and it's not passing a signal back to the computer, letting the computer know what's going on. Now one thing you can do, if you are, so we'll put the key on the on position. We're gonna go back, and you're gonna want to go to engine, and then we want to go to data display, and then we want to go to evap data. Basically we're going to be looking for the FTP. FTP is the fuel tank pressure sensor. So where are you? Okay, right there. So our voltage is at 0. It actually needs, it's a 5-volt reference, so we need to have 5 volts, so we are not getting a signal back from that. So most of the time it's usually the sensor, but if you do have the 4x4, I do want you to know right here there's actually a little issue with these guys. So for the 4x4, get this to focus, this wire right here, this one right here, will rub against the drive shaft. So right there, you need to inspect it. That's for the 4x4 only. This is not 4x4. So if you have the 4x4 and this is rubbing on there, you need to go ahead and address that. Zip tie it to the fuel rail or something and fix that. So inspect your wiring. Make sure none of the wires are damaged. So in my case, they're not. Not that I know of yet. So we got to drop down the tank. Now the tank's not bad to drop down. I did lift it up from the differential, and I did put my jack stands on the sway bar bushing. So right, that's where you're gonna put your jack stands at. That's exactly where I put mine at. So you do that on both sides. So we're gonna have two. Oh, actually, we're gonna take down the drive shaft too. So those are going to be 11 millimeters. So there's going to be 4 in total. So there's 2 right there, and then 2 right there. We're going to go ahead and take those down, and then we got 2 brackets. So there's one right here. I believe they're 13s. Those look like 13s. So there's one right there, and then there's this one. Once we loosen that, we can kind of sneak it out from there. We just only need to slightly drop this tank just a little bit, so where we can reach it. I'm gonna bring my scanner with me, and during that process of meantime, we're not gonna drop the tank fully. We're just only dropping it partial, so where we can actually sneak our hand inside. So that's the reason why we're gonna drop down this sucker. Either you can drop down the exhaust or the drive shaft. I like dropping down the drive shaft because it's a little bit more easier. 4 bolts instead of dealing with all the exhaust hangers. Alright, so cool. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. So right here, we're going to go ahead and get a pry bar and just pry in between the drive shaft and then the yoke. Just like that. And then we can go ahead and take off that bolt. and then we'll just spin these guys right around. Now be careful you don't pop these guys out. If you do, I mean, you just have to pop them back in, but there's a few pins on there that I don't even want to deal with. Alright, so we just need to get this loose enough. So you can see how we have it, just like this. So we still have it on. If you take it off, you're gonna have to put like a little something to catch the fluid right over here at the rear of the tail housing, to catch that fluid. All right, so now we're gonna be ready to drop down the tank. So we'll start off with this one near the differential. So we'll take off that one. Then right here, so we're just gonna lift this guy right up and just, you know, kind of tilt it to the side just like that and then pull it back. And we'll set that right there around the corner. So now this one, we're gonna do the same thing, but we're not gonna fully take it off. So I'm gonna fully take off this bolt, and I'm gonna sit in it. So I'm gonna use my knees to hold the tank. Unless if you have a jack or something that you can use, then that'll be perfect. All right, so remember, make sure you're holding the tank. I just want to be very thorough with this. Now, if you have a full tank of gas, then I'd recommend to you can let the tank rest right here on this little rail. Let me back this up. So right here in the front of the tank will rest right here, so it'll help you out a little bit. If you can put something right here just to hold it, that'll be great. Again, I'm using my knees just to hold the other side. I know it's a little bit of work, but yeah. So right there, that's where the fuel tank is. Now you see that little black connector with the little blue tab? That's going to be your MAP sensor, or I mean your FTP, the fuel tank pressure sensor. It's a little bit hard for me, so I'm kind of using the camera just to guide me. So right here, now what you can do is you can disconnect this, and then be careful when disconnecting it, because if the sensor's fine, you don't want to pay for that. So you're gonna have 3 wires. One's gonna be your 5-volt reference. I just need to check out the wiring diagram. Pretty sure it was the one on the right. It's been a while since I did one of these. I thought I might have showed you guys. But another quick way you can do is, if you don't want to check out the wiring, you can just connect the sensor real quick. And if you get a 5-volt reference real quick, then yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and connect it, and that should be able to show you later on in the video. I'll kind of talk about which wire is the 5-volt reference. Then you should have because this wire is connected with the oil pressure sensor. It's connected with a few other sensors, so but if you have another sensor code too, you need to address those, because this corresponds with those other 5 sensors. I totally forgot which one they were, but I remember dealing with this one time. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the sensor. All right, so just like this, we're gonna go ahead and connect this. Try to do this with one hand while holding the camera too. Now I have the key on the off position too, so we'll connect that like that. Just leave that right in. Now that'll let us know if the sensor is shorting out and not giving us the 5 volts reference. So this is our little test one, and if that is the issue, then we'll go ahead and replace it. This is just a little quick tip just for that. So right now, I'm not holding the tank at all. So as you can see, I'm not holding the tank at all. I only have that one strap. Again, I would recommend to try to hold this with a jack or something. Not my responsibility. If your things break, be careful with your evap and all that stuff. You don't want that to break, because trust me, that's a living nightmare. It's expensive. All right, so right there, I don't have the key on the on position, but you can see that after I already connected it, I have a 1.5 volt. I have 1.5 voltage reference. So we're gonna put the key on the on position, and bam, we have our 1.5 voltage. So that lets us know our wiring is good. Because yeah, you should always get a signal during that time, even with the key on the on position, but some scanners might not show you that. So with the key on the on position, you should be able to get that. So our sensor is going to be the one that's at fault and not our wiring. Let me go ahead and find out the wiring diagram, and I'll let you know which wire is going to be our 5 volts. All right, so right here, like I said, there was 5 sensors. Basically your map sensor, so the manifold absolute pressure sensor. Then we have the FTP, the fuel tank pressure sensor. Then the AC refrigerant pressure sensor. Let's see if I can get that to focus. So right there, so you can see we have our manifold absolute pressure sensor. Then our fuel tank. Sorry about the blurriness. I can't. Let's see if I can get that. Okay, perfect. So our manifold absolute pressure sensor, our fuel tank pressure sensor, our AC refrigerant pressure sensor, our engine oil pressure sensor, and our camshaft position sensor. I think the accelerated position sensor too, but that one will be in like 2 separate ones, so you'll get like 2 codes. These are the ones that we need to worry about. There's 5. If you have all 5 of those codes coming up, either you need pretty much the computer grounds it and sends a power to it. So there's an ECM. So obviously we're going to get our power from it, and then we're also going to be grounding it out from the computer. So for that one, the gray wire right there at the end is going to be our power wire. So that's going to be pin number 3. And then pin number 2 is going to be tan black. That's the one that's going to be the ground. So you need to make sure that you have that. And then the other wire is going to be your signal wire, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so the way how you're going to pop that guy out, you're going to put like a flathead screwdriver. I'll just show that part. So yeah, we'll go ahead and show that part. Make sure your vehicle's off, and then we'll get right back to it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and pop off the old one. Now sometimes a little rubber seal can break in. If it does break in there, no biggie. If you can, get a flathead. If not, try to get like some pliers that you can squeeze right under there. And then what you want to do is you want to pry both sides at the same time. Again, this is a little bit harder with the camera in the way. Alright, cool. So this little bottom lip right here, this is the one I told you, if it falls down, no big, it's not the end of the world. You have a fuel straightener. So right here, basically, we gotta lubricate this part for the new one. So I'm gonna be using some dielectric grease. We're just gonna put a little dab on our fingers. I'll move this guy out the way. Now make sure you're just getting the